We got the trencher, we got the cable, got all the supplies we need. Today we are bearing the power to power up the sub panel in the shop. We are going to be running a 100 amp service line from the house to the shop. What we're running is usually called like a 222 gauge with a ground, but this new one I got actually has two gauges for the power, one 4 gauge for your common, and then the the ground wire is actually, I believe it's a little bit smaller. It's like a 6 gauge, I think. So really it's a 2246 is what this is, and they are direct burial. They're right here. So you got your 2 hots, you got your 2 blacks of the hots, you got your neutral wire with the white indicator stripe, and then you have your ground. Here's a trencher we're going to be using. It is a 24-inch deep by 3 inches wide teeth trencher, and we are going to be going from this panel right behind me here all the way over there to the side of the shop. So on our main panel inside we have a 100 amp sub panel service line. This panel right here was put in as kind of like a junction panel. This services the 20 amp septic tank pump to get our to get the septic pump uphill. But we are going to tee off on this one, and we're actually going to use double lugs up top here, hook our 100 amp service line in, go in the ground, underground all the way to the shop, and then tie it in on another 100 amp breaker to service the sub panel in the shop. So first thing is get this hole dug. All right, trench is dug. I had to do a little bit of digging just where the trencher met from when it was going from the house and then to the shop. I met in the middle in a low spot, so I had to ride over that trench, and a lot of times it fills the hole up when you do that. So I had to hand dig that out, and then hand dug a little bit right here. So we are about ready to lay this wire down. So I'm gonna hopefully lay it out. It's been laying in the sun, so it's hopefully loosened up a little bit. I'm gonna put enough slack on the house end and then start unrolling it into the trench. So the line's buried. This is what I'm going to attach to the side of my junction box right here. Your boxes have all these holes you can punch out, and you just pretty much set it up there, punch out the one the size, set this box on, and then I'll cut the pipe that a wire is going to run up in to length. I think this should be about the right length already. So I totally just murdered that box. Wow, that thing was a ass. And so we have our 4 lines coming in, and on this sub panel we have our bus bars. They are unbonded, so that means they are disconnected. This side is going to be ran as the ground, and it is actually using the bond screw, so I have it grounded pretty much to the panel casing. The neutral or your common is not touching the casing on the panel, so it is not bonded or grounded, as they would say. So all my white wires are going to be ran up here. This is going to be my main common on this lug, and then I have a ground lug right here, and then my 2 hots pretty much go right here, and that is it. It doesn't matter which side you put the hots on the breaker, they're pretty much both the same thing. The only thing we're going to add once we're done wiring this thing up with our power is a ground wire. I still have to put a additional ground in on the grounding rod outside, and we'll do that last. The ultimate goal here is to obviously make this panel look as neat as possible. Just from seeing electricians work, definitely have noticed that they'll run the grounding wires on the back of the panel. When I say back of the panel, I mean like actually touching the casing of the panel, you know, and all the grounds push back. Most of them are going to be bare anyway, so I think that's why electricians or normal professional electricians run most of the grounds first, because it is okay for your ground wires to touch your panel case. So we do have aluminum wire, so I'm going to put some anti-corrosive lube on it, I guess they call it. So this is just when you're running power through an aluminum conductor, I guess it tends to oxidize pretty good. All right, next we got our common wire, and it is always going to be your white or your black with a white tracer, as this one is. So again, I'm going to run this one on the front side of the panel, and then that will hold some of the whites behind it as well, because all the whites going to be on this side. I think that'll work. I'll trim it. This direct burial line, ooh, you talking about having some thick sheeting on it. That stuff is hard to cut off. I haven't even got to the heavy gauge wire yet. So put our anti-seize on it. Not anti-seize, automotive world. Put our antioxidant on here. There you go, I'll get it right eventually. Tight. All right, looking good so far. Now we got to run our hot. Correct me if I'm wrong, I would imagine that you would not want them touching any part of the case. You would want them kind of positioned free floating, so they're positioned in a way to where they're not touching anything. Let's see how this one lines up. I can always move, like I said, I can always move that ground and move that lug on the bottom. So I like that. That's going straight up and into the panel. So I'm going to copy the same thing with the second power. A little bend in it. Alright, so there is the setup. So I have the common or neutral coming in on this bar, and then I have the ground coming in back here, and it is up against the back of the case. That way it's helping hold the other grounds. And then my 2 power wires coming in, kind of kink those. And then my hot wires coming off these circuit breakers right here, I'll probably make a little bit shorter than this one you see here, and that way they will line up right in front of the power wires coming in. And I feel pretty good with that. Now let's go get the other panel. Alright, so our panel coming off the house already has power coming into it. And the only thing I did add on this panel were these dual lug adapter instead of the single. So right here you can see it had the single on there and the main power was coming in right here. So I unbolted those and I put this dual lug adapter on here, and then that way I can have two power wires coming in. And what this will pretty much do, it'll pretty much be a splice. So since I already have a 100 amp breaker in the house servicing this line, and then I'll have another 100 amp breaker on the service panel or the sub panel, I didn't feel the need to put a third breaker in line. So I'm pretty much just splicing these on these dual lug hubs, putting the lugs back on, and then I hooked up my ground right up here. We had a pretty big lug on here. I'm not sure if you can tie these grounds together, but I really could not see a reason why you couldn't. So I just put this ground on the same ground coming from the main panel. And so I'm going to bring my power lines up here, tie them in on this, and then I'll have my common line hooked up on this additional lug I'll add to the neutral bar. So that worked out pretty good. I actually used one of these top lugs that were on the power, and I just added it to the neutral bar down here, and it's not hitting the panel anywhere. So now I can tie this neutral wire in straight from the bottom. Neutral tied in. One hot wire left. All right, fellas, we are done. So in this junction panel, we have our neutral coming in. It's tied on our neutral bar with our neutral bar in the house. We're pretty much using this panel as just a connector. And then we have our hots coming in from the house. We doubled these lugs up here, so now this is pretty much just a splice that's powering our panel also, so we can take off our 220 amp breaker still for our sump pump. And then the other power going out. And then here's our ground coming in, and I just doubled the ground from the house and then the ground from the shop. Both panels are tied in and complete. Now we're going to run the ground rod, so I'm going to drive our copper coated grounding rod into the ground. Unfortunately, I'm just going to be doing one today because Home Depot, that was the last one they had. I know you're supposed to do two, like about 5 or 6 feet apart. So hopefully I can get another one next week. Right now we just have one. And then also I could not find solid 6 gauge or 4 gauge copper wire anywhere in the store. So I have a roll of 6 gauge stranded green coated wire. So that's what we're going to use for now. Now I don't have any power right now. All the power is cut off.
Okay.
So this will be, so we can just take it like this, fold it a little bit, and then slide it right out of these things just like that. And then now it's grounded. Pretty cool, huh?
So like, what will that wire be used for?
Nothing. That's the main ground. So that's a 6 gauge wire. It's going right into the ground. So the panels are complete. We have our sub panel grounded. Everything is hooked up how it should be. Are you ready to turn it on?
Yeah.
All right, I'll turn it on. So we're gonna turn the main 100 amp breaker on first. Look and listen for anything crazy. Wish me luck, Memphis. Do you trust my dad's skills?
Yeah.
All right, now nothing crazy going on. So now this thing is hot, Memphis, so we can't touch it. Except for your breakers. You can touch the breakers, but all the metal stuff in here, definitely cannot touch.
It's live.
It is live. All right, so now let's turn. So if this thing works, I got this light hooked up right here on this receptacle. If it works, this light behind me should come on. Are you ready? You ready? Nice, dude. We got power.
Yeah.
The shop finally has power. That is so cool. All right, so all those, oh, so that means our refrigerator. So this is for, the
yep.
freezer just kicked on. Sweet. Everything's working and no sparks. Definitely feeling accomplished. Everything is functioning as it should. One more. We officially have a panel, dude. I'm freaking so pumped. This, that's awesome. Super cool. Then to get to the breakers, you just lift this up. So then we'll turn it back on and see how these are still covered. Yeah, so these, you just leave them covered up until you use them. Then when you go to
You
put
just
these,
hit it with the hammer?
you can, yeah, just from the outside. This one's kind of weird.
Yeah, you can turn that on.
All right, so these still don't have power yet because this is off.
Yeah.
So I was just making sure, because this panel actually has like a spring-loaded face. You can see how it sits over the circuit breakers and actually kind of holds them in, because see how they're a little bit loose.
Yeah.
We don't have to cover it all the way up because I can finish it with a tractor. But if we can get, you know, majority of the dirt on it would be great. Then I'll just come back and smooth everything with a tractor. That sound good?
It's actually working really good. See? Hit it like that. And then
That was a nice project. Big accomplishment. Went really smooth.
yeah. We're almost done burying this thing.
Another shop project complete. Father and son bonding time that he'll never forget? Maybe. But him volunteering to help, that's something that I'll always remember. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next week for another shop project.